Be smart enough to get out of your own way. This week on BCP. Hey there, Proud Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. It's the show that's all about having and living the blue-collar business dream. If you can dream it, you can build it. It is possible. We believe that. We're not just blowing smoke. You can trust us, and we want to be along for the ride. My name is Carter Harkins. With me every single week is Taylor Hill.
And I'm here again.
Thank you guys for being with us. I want to just real quickly introduce our sponsor again for the show, Closing Commander. Closing Commander automatically follows up with customers about your estimates and proposals. In fact, John Caesar with Caesar's Chimney was nice enough to give us this testimonial. He's in New Hampshire. He said, "We love Closing Commander. It takes all the headache and guesswork out of following up with our customers. We have seen a drastic increase in our closing rate since we started using it. It is super easy to use and simple to navigate. Thank you so much for putting together a system like this." Well, thank you, John. We really appreciate it. And if you're listening, now it's your turn. Unlock the revenue trapped in your open estimates. Sign up today using the special link in the show notes or the special offers page on our website or in the app, and your first month is totally on us. Get started winning more open estimates with Closing Commander. Do it today. All right. So we're getting into a subject today that I think is absolutely probably the number one thing that owners encounter in growing a business successfully, which is the tendency we have to get in our own way. We only see the business from our perspective, and we get so focused and down in the weeds in something that we don't realize how we're actually tripping ourselves up and getting in our own way. And we're talking with somebody today who I think has seen it in other people's businesses. He's been frank and honest in presentations he's done about how he's done it himself. Mm-hmm. And he's a good friend of the show, somebody that we've talked to since day one. You guys know him. You've heard him before right here, Jerry Isenhour. We're going to play an interview we had with him and then come back afterwards and chat a little bit about it. So you want to get to the interview?
Oh yeah, let's go right to it. I think it's good.
Let's do it. Jerry Isenhour, welcome to the show.
Hey man, it is great to be back. And just so you know, I got Chucky sitting here with me. It's just like old times, Carter.
That old groundhog. That's awesome. We're glad to have you. We're talking about today something that I think is really important. It kind of goes to mindset, which is something we talk a lot about, but also, as business owners, we get in our own way, and oftentimes we're the reason that we're not having more success. And I couldn't think of a better person and this is going to sound bad. I don't mean to, you just have got so much experience talking with business owners out there and hearing their struggles and seeing where they're shooting themselves in the foot and getting in their own way. I wanted you to come on and just talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you see, maybe 2 or 3 things that you think, man, if I could just help business owners not do this all the time, they'd have such a better life. So what do you see out there? What are some of those things that you see?
Well, it felt like you were just reading my story there when you went along, when you talked about all those things. But anyway, yeah. There's 3 things that I think that if people could get past these 3 things, it would be a phenomenal advancement forward for them to get what I call getting their dreams, which is the business that they want and what they described. And the first one is past failures. And past failures come not only in business, it comes in life, it comes in marriages. When you look at things, when people have failed in a previous relationship, it's very hard to make the next relationship work. So what happens is we have these feelings of past failures. As an example, often in businesses, they will have hired someone and they banked everything on this person, this small business, and the person didn't work out. Then that company, that business owner, that manager is scared to hire the next person because they're scared they're going to fail. And what you've got to do is get past that and remember that 80-20 rule, that winners are going to fail 80% of the time. And you are going to fail. And what you've got to do is use what you learned in that experience to make it better next time. Now, that's number one. Number
Can
two,
we pause a minute right there? Because
sure.
I want to just throw this in because, man, I think you are dead on the money. And I'm going to recommend John Maxwell's Failing Forward for anybody that feels this way. And I'm going to let you continue on, Jerry, but I just wanted to throw that in because it's easy sometimes to say all you got to do is get over it. But I think when you understand the science behind failure and you understand the principles behind failing forward and why failing is actually one step forward and not a step back, or it doesn't mean that you are on the ground and can't get up, it actually propels you to the next thing. And I think if people could understand that, it would help them get through that feeling, because that's just an emotion that we choose to feel, and start letting them make better decisions about the failure and what they can learn from it.
Correct. And that's a big part of the John Maxwell philosophy that we're taught when I went through John Maxwell certification. So you're dead on the money.
Yeah.
Now, the next one is this involves their surroundings. And what happens is someone's business is not to their dreams yet. And to be honest with you, it's hard to find anyone that's reached that dream level. You have to keep working towards it. But this often happens after a convention, after a summit, and after that's over with, I'm dealing with clients who are calling, and their question is, why do these guys not have the problems that I do? And it goes into telling them, everybody's got problems. It's very hard to walk onto a stage and say, I suck at this. Now, in my case, I can actually walk on the stage, and you've seen me do this, and I'll tell you how bad I've been. Now, that's a hard thing to do, to stand in front of a group of people. But when you're sitting there and you're hearing rock stars telling you how great everything is, and it's like, and it really depresses them. And I think what we've got to do is remember coming out of there that everybody's got problems. So that will be number two.
So the grass is always greener is kind of a, another way of saying that. We tend to look at what somebody else has and think, man, if I only had that, right? If my business only was that good. And what we forget is that when we all show up to these conferences and these conventions and things, we tend to put on our Sunday best. We tend to show up talking about, wanting to appear like we've had, a really good year. We want to appear to our peers as being successful, and we want to, have a clear advantage so that we are looked at as being, hey, I'm one of the top dogs around here. And so we talk up what we're doing. We put a spin on it, the best light on situations we don't talk about. We minimize those problems. What you're saying is that it's probably, if you walk away thinking that that's reality and forget the fact that everybody's got their own stuff, everybody's got their own problems, that if you went to that guy's warehouse and walked in, you're going to immediately see where his problems are and realize that he wakes up and gets dressed the same way everybody else does. It's the same problems no matter where you are in business. You've got to deal with it. That's what you're talking about, right?
That's exactly it. I have gone to businesses, and they're not in this industry. I'm in the chimney sweeping industry. That's what I work with in hearth. But I've been in businesses that were not connected with the chimney sweeping industry, and the owner has even been nationally recognized as a speaker and does all these kind of things. But if you walk into the business for just a visit when they're not prepared for these type of things, what's said in these groups is not necessarily what's really happening. And that's what people got to understand. And that's why you got to look at what you're doing, engaging it. Are you happy? Is the business producing what you want it to? Keeping in mind, you can always improve it, but don't let other people's success hold you back. Let other people's success fire you up and give you the fuel, not depress you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I want to add something else to this, because I think there's something else that people miss, and it's human nature. It's the same thing that happens when my granddaughter when I tell my granddaughter how lovely she is, yeah, you're my granddad. You're supposed to say that. As when some other, 12-year-old says, wow, you're really pretty, and she lights up. So there's some human things in there. So what happens, I think, a lot of times is people hear what they want to hear. And I say this because recently we did something about culture, and we have a really good culture. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have issues at times, because we do. But we have really worked for 3 years to have the culture and the leadership that we have. And yet there are people afterwards that when they talk to me, you would have thought that I blinked my eyes and it happened. It takes work. So sometimes I think people idealize, is that correct? They idealize the people on the stage and think that they magically got to where they got, where it really took a lot of hard work, money, and time to get there. And so they're looking for a silver bullet, and most people that I see that talk about the things in their business realistically, they're talking about the bad stuff as well. We just tend not to hear that part.
That's it. And, I call it grasping for a magic bean. And it seems like that's what a lot of people are doing. They're going to it. We see in the coaching industry. In fact, it's one of the issues with coaches, where someone goes and they get different coaches. And the reason they're getting them is hopefully they think that this guy is going to tell them something that the other coach isn't. Now, it might be told in a different way or whatever, but in the coaching world, we all operate from the same principles, which is to get you to understand that you are your own solution. You are your own, you are what is going to fuel this. No one can do this for you. So yeah, what you're looking at, you hear the magic, but you don't hear the other side. Right. And that's what people want people to remember. When they hear someone talking about how great it is, I could go and watch Dr. John Maxwell speak and hear him tell how great this is and everything else. But at the same time, I also know I hear him tell you about the failures in his own system. Mm-hmm. So there's both sides of this, and people got to realize everybody's got problems in their business, and what you've got to do is take the meat out of this and take it back and put it to work and not depress you. Really, don't let this happen, because you will go into a state of depression. And I'm seeing that in 2018 really hard.
And you and I have talked about this before, the tendency for people to look at someone else's business at a number, like a gross revenue number, and think, man, he's killing it. But that number doesn't tell you anything, because if it cost him $1 more to make that much money than the money he got in, then he's broke. He's $1 to the negative in the red. So unless you know what his profit is, then you really don't know anything about the health of his business, right?
That's correct. It's like if you were operating your business in New York City, okay, you would probably have to charge double what you're charging for your services.
In somewhere, say, like Kansas City or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you look at it, and people look, and you look at it from people asking what they charge, and you've got to charge the numbers that are going to provide what you're looking for, that are going to keep you competitive in your marketplace, and pay your people at a wage that they are very competitive in their individual marketplaces. And when you work in, I work in all over the U.S., and I can see places where $30,000 to $35,000 a year is a very high wage in some parts of the country. Mm-hmm. In other parts of the country, if you're not in six figures, you're not going to be able to afford a place to live. So it's completely relevant to the economic, even though this is one country, the economic situation around this country is tremendously different, and the customers are different, and the way they spend is different in every market.
Yeah,
that's good.
So
comparing yourself to another business is just a bad idea, but comparing apples to oranges is even a worse idea.
That's it. That's exactly right. And then the third thing to do, and people do this to themselves, and this also commonly comes after someone has been, again, to a convention, a summit. What they do is they get fired up. You ever see these people get fired up, Carter?
Oh, yeah. I've been that guy.
Okay, you see them, they're sitting there and they're sitting at the table, and man, they are revved up. In fact, if you ever went to a Suzanne Evans or whatever, or they're going to get you clapping and going on, and you know exactly what I'm talking
Feeling
about.
good. Everything's
Yeah.
possible.
God
Got a
almighty,
lot of great ideas.
the music's loud. It's like we're jiving.
Yeah.
But what happens is they come home from that, and they're all fired up. I even see it in SWAT meetings when we do it with businesses. They're all fired up, and everybody says, this is what we're going to do. And this is what the business owner has to remember, that if you tell your people this is what we're going to do, you got to do it. And if you're not going to do it, you got to explain to people why it's not being done, because what happens is, after a while, and I saw this as a consultant and coach when I first started, because the hardest companies are the ones that had a previous consultant in, and this is what the employee said. Oh, God, here we go again. And I said, what do you mean, here we go again? You're not the first one in here. And I had another company one time, and we were having a meeting, and we sat down, and one of the guys said, I just got to lay this out. Lay it out. When you're here, everything's great. And as soon as you go home, as soon as you walk out that door, this crap changes. Really. So you understand, you've got to do what you say you're going to do. You can't just throw out words randomly and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to shut this down, whatever. That's going to set the tone for your workforce. And the people that can enthuse their people and make enthused team members. I often talk about enthused customers. Well, you got to have enthused team members. You got to have team members, and that's part of that culture thing you talk about a lot, and then what I talk about. It's all about having people that are enthused and all on the same wavelength to do an extraordinary job better than anyone else with their customer and exceed the customer's expectations. And when you have that, your dreams are going to happen, and your business is going to move to where it needs to go.
Well, and I'll tell you, if you want enthused employees, do what you say you're going to do. It's a trust issue.
It really is.
It is a trust issue.
Yeah, it's just like this, Taylor. You know what it's like, and a political leader makes a statement. Just makes a statement. And love him or hate him, that's one of the problems we have today in leadership. We have statements made, and all of a sudden the world is based, even the stock market is based on the simple words that man said today. So as a business owner, you are a leader, and a leader has got to be honest. He's got to be straightforward. I interviewed Brandy Bizzle yesterday, and we talked about servant leadership. And I don't know if you listen to this, and she talks about all the things that a leader has to be able to do. And it was really a phenomenal thing. She taught a class in Portland, Oregon the other week. And when I heard what she said, it's like, hey, I got to get you on my podcast. And I'll tell you guys the same thing. You guys need to get Brandy on your podcast, because she's got such knowledge in these areas. And she's phenomenal with this. And that's the kind of word. It's just like you look at Jeremy Biswell. Well, if you look at Jeremy people think Jeremy might be this big cut up. But let me tell you something. When it goes down to business, and you know it and I know it, Jeremy's on it on business. He's on it.
Yeah. And I've heard part of Brandy's, and actually saw something that I follow her pretty regularly on Facebook, and I would agree with you. She's got her stuff together.
She has. She won that friendship award, and she didn't win it because she was, wife of a president of the NCSG. She's just a giving kind of person. But when you watch these people and to watch how Brandy operates, and it's not just Brandy, it's other people too. So I don't want to key on one person there, but I want to use her as the example. But that's what you got to do, because when I walk into their office, those people are pumped up. They are pumped. And that's what you got to have. No matter if I'm coming in or not, their people are always pumped up. If I call on the phone, they're pumped up. They're not depressed, and their customer knows it.
That's it. So here's 3 things that you've given us, Jerry. Number 1, don't dwell on your past failures. Allow those failures to move you forward and energize you for the fact that you've learned something, and now you can take that forward and do better this time. Don't allow those past failures to hang around your ankles. And the second thing was don't compare yourself to other people, especially if what you're comparing yourself to is different than what's in your business. You can't look at what somebody else has and think that, compare yourself to them in that way. It's just, it doesn't work. And the third thing was always keep your word, because failure to keep your word absolutely destroys your credibility, your trust with your team. Doing what you say you're going to do is the bedrock for building a successful business. Have I got it right?
That's it. You got it right. And I got 3 words. And if people will remember these 3 words, because I use these 3 words in keynotes. Cheryl and I use these 3 words in a for couples to work together. And you heard me say these 3 words at a seminar that you went to that I did at Heat Shield this year. And these 3 words I feel are the magic words. They are communication, they are actions, and they are understanding. And that is understanding yourself, understanding others, the actions you take, and the actions that you fail to take, and communication. And 80% of communication is listening. So if you remember those 3 words, guys, I think you got it. I think you'll move in a phenomenal way to an extraordinary level in life and in business.
No, that's good. All right, Jerry, just like old times,
Thanks,
if people want to connect with you online, where do they find you?
Hey, you can look us up. We're at cbccoaching.com. You can also look us up at jerryisenhour.com. Just give us a call. We'd be glad to talk to you and love to help you out if we can.
Awesome. Jerry Isenhour, thank you for being on today.
Thanks, Jerry.
Appreciate it, guys.
You can count on Jerry for being frank and honest about, himself and what he sees. And, he's been through a lot of training, with John Maxwell's leadership, team and Zig Ziglar. And he's gotten a lot of good information that I think has been very helpful. I really appreciated what he had to say.
I think one of the things that you kind of threw me and said, Jerry being frank. I'm like, he's not frank, he's Jerry. But anyway. It's one of those things, really, we all do it.
Yep.
And if there's anybody out there that goes, oh my gosh, he hit me on the nail on the head, it's me, then my answer is, yeah, it's all of us. I mean, we all do it. If you're a business owner, you're going to get in your own way at times. And so having that really good perspective and sitting back and saying, oh, okay. That's the deal. But I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Because I think one of the most difficult things as a business owner is when you are in what I'm going to call a depressed state. And I'm not talking about depression in the sense clinical depression.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying that you can't seem to make a sale. Nothing seems to be going right. And it seems to be this perpetual ongoing thing. Mm-hmm. So did you get a takeaway from what we heard today that really will help somebody get out of that situation?
Well, it was funny while Jerry was talking, what I realized what we were really talking about with failure and learning from failure, failing forward, all of those principles about, not taking ourselves too seriously, learning from our mistakes and all of that. There was one thing that never really got talked about that I thought was kind of the key to all of it. And it's sort of a mindset thing. But it's a practice as well in life, which is gratitude. When we can be grateful for an opportunity to learn something about ourselves, when we can be grateful for learning lessons, when we can look at failure and say, you know what, it's not where I want to stay, but I'm going to take everything I can from this, mine it for all that it's worth, leave a big empty hole in the ground and move on. I'm not leaving anything behind here that I could possibly learn as I go. It's kind of a mindset of gratefulness. And to me, that is the thing that pulls me out of pity party or a self-inflicted, period of depression when I don't feel like anything's going right. If I can find things I can be grateful for, things that are going right, focused on, okay, so this was a misstep, but look at what I just learned. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. I think that mindset has helped me more than almost anything else.
It's interesting you said that because I've just recently kind of flipped that a little bit. And not because I don't want to be grateful for something that's negative.
Yeah, for the bad.
for
Right.
the bad. But what I have realized is appreciation. It's a really kind of a very small thing, but being appreciative. So to look at every single thing in my life that I really appreciate, because there's abundance in that. And if you can change your thought process from a lack to an abundance, it shifts all that. And it's very difficult to be in a bad state of mind when you start appreciating all those things you have.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's small things.
Yeah, and even if it's not related
yeah.
to the issue or the thing that
Yes.
that you're down about, or the frustration or the challenge or the failure that you're in, there's plenty to think about, right? So okay, I'm in this situation, but my kids are healthy.
You bet.
I can still pay the second truck payment. I can still keep my doors open, my lights on. My family is thriving. Those sorts of things. When you can stop and get out of the hole that you're in, and that's what I was really talking about. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think anybody who's grateful for misery, is probably learning how to stay in misery.
Exactly.
And find happiness in misery. And I don't ever want to be happy in misery.
Yeah.
But there's this human reality that we're going to go through stuff that we don't control, and there's going to be consequences to decisions we've made that we have to walk through. But what I'm going to be grateful for is the ability to continue walking.
Yeah.
To continue going, moving through that and getting to the other side of it. What I'm grateful for is that I have the ability to change and make a different decision that leads somewhere new. And those are the things that I'm grateful for. It's not the thing. It's not I'm grateful that this is happening to me.
Right.
It's I'm grateful that I can learn from this to move forward.
What happens a lot of times, though, is we look at it, and even though we say, I'm grateful for that because I learned this, that's what I'm talking about. Don't be grateful for that. Be grateful for what you learned.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
a slight difference, but it's important.
a slight difference,
Yeah.
but it's really, really important because it's this appreciative attitude of what do you appreciate in the world? What do you appreciate about what's around you? Because whatever you appreciate, you get more of.
Right.
So appreciate those things. Appreciate and be happy.
Yeah. There's a word
Yeah.
for people who love pain. Masochist.
Yes. I ain't one of them.
Well, that's good. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
Because it's easy when you're in those situations, and this is another tendency we see of leaders, to refuse to learn anything.
Yeah.
They blame everybody but themselves. And maybe they don't even blame a person. They just blame, the government or them or they or, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But they're going to look around immediately, look for a scapegoat to pin this on and say, you're the reason I'm miserable, or this situation is, the reason that I'm where I am. It's not my fault. So it's easy to do that. I want to know, how do you do the hard thing? How do you look at what's going on and realize that you might be the reason that you are where you are right now?
My personal opinion on this, and there's probably, if you would disagree, come to the Facebook page and, the group, and let's have a conversation about it. But here is my bottom line. Anytime that my business is not going the way I want it to go, I don't care what it is. You're my business partner. It's always my fault. It's always my fault. Because it's my responsibility to move my business where I think it should go. It's my responsibility to make sure that my employees get out of the business what they want, whether it's learning, whether it's position, whether it's money, whatever that's my responsibility. I took that on when I started a business. Okay? So if you're in that place, there is nobody to blame. It's the buck stops here. And unfortunately, we're in a culture right now that for whatever reason, we have people in really high places that do this blame game, and people buy into it.
Oh my gosh.
It's awful. And it's like, no, dude, Buck stops with you. What you say, you're responsible for. What you do, you're responsible for. And it's the same thing in my business. You know, it doesn't matter if you're in politics. It doesn't matter if you're in a nonprofit, if you're in a profitable business. It doesn't matter, whatever that is. You're in a leadership deal, be responsible. You know, stop with, lying and that crap. It needs to just stop. And we need to make sure people don't get away with it. And my employees and my business partner, you sitting in front of me, would never let me get away with that crap. Ever. And if you did, I'd be pissed off at you. Because it's just not allowed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if I want to have a pity party and complain, I may do it to you, but you don't let me stay there.
No.
And vice versa. Because it doesn't do you any good. So if the first thing you can do is look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I really want? What do I want from this business? And then go to work. You know, I heard something the other day. It was, I hope I can remember what this was, but it was really interesting. They called it the law of traction. They said, if you want shit, you got to do shit. That was it. That's the law of traction. So if you want your business to be wherever it wants to go, then you got to do whatever it is to get it there. And that's the bottom line. There are no excuses.
Yeah. I think so much time gets wasted when we look at the situation and want to just blame that situation, you know. And it may be, you know, who knows what it may be, but, the quicker we can say, I'm in this position because I'm going to take responsibility for where we are right now. Mm-hmm. Even if I may not understand exactly how we got here, I'm going to make a choice right now to do something else to move it where I want it to go. Right. I love your point. Stopping and asking the question, what do I really want right now?
Yeah. What do you want?
I mean, that's such a key refocuser, because we get so focused on what we don't want, right? Well, mm-hmm. I just, I can't find any good people out there who want to work, and I can't seem to, my customers won't pay more than this amount, per hour. So, that's the reason that I'm broke all the time. You know, I mean, we make these decisions based on beliefs about what other people, how they're impacting our lives, instead of just taking ownership and saying, no, I can change this. I can find customers who will be willing to pay more. And guess what? They're probably going to be better customers anyway.
Absolutely.
And I can find people who want to work for a business like mine if I become the kind of leader that they want to work for. Mm-hmm. I can attract better employees, but there's something I've got to do. If I want to do that, then I got to do the stuff.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I would challenge anybody with that, because, Mark Stoner comes onto the show quite often. And one of the very first things that I asked him, it's been several years ago, I said, when your business totally tanked, what happened? You know what he said? He said, I sucked. That's what he said. He said, I drove it in the ground. He said, it was all me. And guess what? He turned it around. And now he'll tell you that it's because of the people he hired, and it's because of the management, it's because of this, it's because of that. I mean, he gives so much credit to all those people. But honestly, it's because he changed.
Yeah.
So it's really about, what are you going to do? You're not where you want to be, change and go get to be where you want to be.
That's good. You just said something that and maybe somebody else said this. I don't know. And maybe I'm not as brilliant as I think I'm about to be as I say this, but
maybe I said it.
Bad leaders blame others for the problems and take credit when it goes right. Good leaders blame themselves when things go wrong and give all the credit to others when it goes right.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I'm sure somebody said that somewhere. If not, then copyright Carter Harkins, 2018.
I said it I just didn't was as concise as you did.
But good stuff. This is it's been a great episode. A lot of good information. Before I let you go, though, I want to tell you guys listening just a few more things. I wanted to share some feedback. Caleb Martinez is a listener of the show up in the Midwest, and he said he actually let us know recently that the episode we did with Mark Stoner, funny enough, just talking about him, said that it was particularly good. It hit him right where he lived, he said. So he plans to listen to it several more times. I love hearing that. I love knowing that that the guests that we're bringing on are delivering value and impacting lives. That's really what this is about. So check that one out if you haven't already. Thank you, Caleb, for that feedback. And just a reminder to everybody that you can connect with us over in the Blue Collar Proud Nation Facebook group. Find the group, just do a search for Blue Collar Proud Nation in Facebook, and ask to join. We'll let you right in, and you can hang out with some really cool people over there. And that's going to do it for this episode. You can find out about all the other places you can connect with us by simply going to bcpshow.com/connect. That's it. Taylor and I always want to thank you for listening every single week. Want to thank the people that make this show happen. Aaron Blaze, our technical director, Jessica Wynn, our show coordinator, and Jonathan Sanders, our community manager. Until next time, remember it takes the same energy to build a business you hate as it does to build one that you're proud of. So get it together and build it the Blue Collar Proud way. Thanks. We'll see you again right here next time.
The Blue Collar Proud Show is a production of the Blue Collar Proud Network.